Welcome back to Peek into COS. Today we have a fun episode. We brought in two local restaurant industry leaders, and we're going to talk all things Michelin Guide and restaurants in the Colorado Springs area. First, our returning first podcast guest. Brother, you were the very first person that we did on this back in 2022. He's known as our local celebrity chef for his appearances on shows like Bravo's Top Chef and Food Network's Beat Bobby Flay. Chef Brother Luck, welcome back.
Oh, such an honor. I mean, it feels like it was just yesterday.
Great. It's nice to hear. Yeah, lots happened since we were sitting in the middle of the pandemic back in 2022. We also have Matthew Schniper, who many of you know from Side Dish with Schniper. Matthew has been reviewing the region's local food scene for the past 25 years as a food writer and reviewer. Matthew, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
I know you guys do a lot of these, so I don't know how many you get to do together. So for us, it's fun to have you both together. And I want to set the stage. We're gonna give, realizing that we've got locals listening to this as well as people who are either here now on vacation or planning to come on vacation. We're gonna talk a little bit about the evolution of the industry in Colorado Springs and the restaurants. And maybe, Matthew, since you've been around a little longer than both Brother and I in this market, tell us a little bit about how you've seen it evolve.
Sure. I came out in 1997 to attend Colorado College. Mm-hmm. I worked in the industry at that time on South Tejon Street. Il Vicino was located there at the time, which is right near Jack Quinn's now and building where Jack's is. So I have seen it for the last 30 years. I also worked for Chef Brent Beavers after that at Sencha, and we saw the early evolution of our fine dining scene emerging. There was a little club called Club 9 at the time where some chefs got together and tried to push the envelope. Mm-hmm. So I've seen that encouragement from early on to try to move our scene forward. Okay. How can we get beyond the normal, the average? How do we follow the big city trends? It's been slow progress. We're still making progress, but I think this Michelin thing is an exciting time to talk about how we can continue to push forward. And it's an appropriate time to look back, celebrate the victories, and acknowledge, how the scene has changed. And we can get into that. We talk about the early days at the Ritz and the Cosmo Martinis, and that was the craft cocktail scene. And where has craft cocktails gone since then? Just, all over. And of course, Brother will be able to talk more to the dining side of that too. But we are making progress. I'm proud to say that.
There you go. Brother?
Yeah, I mean, I've had the pleasure of being here since 2006. So it's been 20 years, which is surreal. And I've watched it just transition from the era of the Club 9 to where we are today. And I think there's so many positives. I think it's an individual's ambition that is what pushes us forward. And the more we continue to see creative individuals step into our market and push boundaries and break barriers, I think that's where the progress happens.
It's interesting. I love that perspective because as we were talking just before we came on the air, we were talking about an art installation that we've done on the side of our building. And you could almost say that as the restaurant and craft beverage industry has evolved, so is the creative arts culture of Colorado Springs as well. And in many ways, they kind of go hand in hand, that as your restaurants and everything improve, your arts and culture scene takes a step up as well. People, when you come and you look around downtown Colorado Springs, from the art installations and the murals, and it's a city that you don't want to be in a hurry to get through because you can really enjoy some of the great things that you might not be expecting. Okay, so let's talk a little bit, talk as long as we want, about the Michelin Guide, okay? It's for listeners that are not aware, the Michelin Guide is 126 years old. It started in 1900 by the Michelin Tire Company to help boost tire consumption by encouraging people to drive around the places that they eat, and it's really involved to the point now from a prestige standpoint that in 49 countries around the world, there are people who will look at the Michelin guide as kind of their Bible, like their way to say, if I'm going somewhere I really don't know, here's a safe place for us to take a look. So I want to ask, maybe, brother, let me start with you this time to, you know that Michelin first came to the state of Colorado in 2023. It was just in 6 cities. And it was in Denver, it was in Boulder, and Aspen, Snowmass, Vail, and Beaver Creek. And then they've just announced they're now going to all 4 corners of the state. I'm just curious, brother, let's start with you on your perspectives on what you think this could mean for our city and for our state.
I think when it comes down to Michelin, it's understanding that it's a brand.
It's a brand,
and it's a luxury brand. So as much as it might seem foreign to many people because we haven't had it in this country very long, it does have clout internationally. And when you look at that brand from a global perspective, that's where I think there's a lot of legitimacy. So it's exciting to see Colorado be fully included in the opportunity because you're watching Michelin go through a transition as well of how they generate revenue, of how they market their brand, of how they expand their brand. And we're watching it with even hotels. I mean, now we're seeing Michelin keys go out. So I think there's an exciting element of people who come to places to experience the Michelin experience because it does rate you at it. Same way the Broadmoor markets the 5-star, 5-diamond from Forbes, right? That's the same exact type of prestigiousness that we want to celebrate.
And before I go to you, Matthew, one of the things that I think, we're recording this in 2026. In 2027, in January, Boulder is going to be hosting the first of 10 years, at least, of Sundance Film Festival. And in talking to colleagues up in the Boulder area, they just said that one of the assets that really helped them convince Sundance it was good to move here and safe to move here was the Michelin recognition of some restaurants there in Boulder and in the Denver area that they will be able to enjoy. But Matthew, let me turn it to you.
Yeah, what I appreciate, and I agree with what brother said, personally speaking, when I first went to Europe, I was just in college. Someone handed me a Michelin Green Guide, said, here's what you need to know. I took that and I used that, and this was, pre-cell phones, all that easy stuff. I had like paper maps and everything, and I was trying to find my way around. But at that time in my life, I was just a backpacker. I didn't have the money to appreciate Michelin the way that it was meant to be appreciated. So my experience with it early was, oh, this isn't for me. But it still it acknowledged everything and gave me an idea of it. But what I appreciate now is Michelin's becoming more approachable. So as we expand into those smaller markets, as Michelin has, they haven't dumbed it down, they haven't lowered the bar of standards the inspectors are reviewing on, but they've done food trucks, they've done street stalls, they've brought it down to everyday people food. I love that. So now it's approachable. So I feel like it's for me too. It's not just for the high-end traveler. Now there will be that. So, and I love how there's, everything from 2 stars and above to that's, you're going to spend a lot of money on that meal to recommended where you may not be spending much more than an average place in town right now anywhere, chain or local. I love that. So when I've been trying the ones in Denver myself, I found them very approachable. And I think that makes Michelin more accessible. And I think we do have to educate everyone about that's happening. I've just noticed in early feedback about the word of Michelin coming here, there wasn't enthusiasm by some people. They worried about what it might mean and things will go up and rents will rise and everything. Sure, some of those things could happen, but why not celebrate on the front end how much potential there is and what Michelin can bring? So I'm excited for that.
Well, we know that in the 3 years that Michelin has been in our state, that there are about 50 restaurants that have been officially recognized. And what we know about travelers is that people will travel for food year round. I mean, food is not although you do seasonal menus, people eat year round and they travel year round. We know that in Colorado, almost 61% of people who were surveyed said that food and cuisine is the highest travel passion category for recent or likely visitors to Colorado. That's how important a part of their trip is. So, regardless of whether our region earns recognition in this very first year or not, what would you tell visitors who are interested in exploring the foodie experience of Colorado Springs?
Well, you hit it spot on. It's an experience, and meals are a requirement, right? You have to eat. So it's natural to plan your vacations, to plan your trips around dining because you have to eat something. Right. But most people are looking for that experience, that appreciation, that attention to detail. I just want to know that my dollars that I'm spending, that I worked extremely hard for, are going to a place that's going to value me. And I think that's really where I see that mindset. So I think when you're coming to Colorado Springs, that's where we want to be included in the ability to be included in that search, in that database. So there's so many of those restaurants out there. The accolade doesn't mean that that's the only restaurants that are going to give that to you. But sure, there's so many great restaurants here that just deserve the opportunity to be a part of that brand, to be attached to that brand. And I think this is more of what it's about, is it's the opportunity to say we are included in the Michelin recommendation. We're included in the Michelin brand.
Or at the table. So, Matthew, I've heard you, I'll let you take a swing at that as well, because I've heard you talk in the past about the non-chains.
Yeah, exactly. I was just going to say, what is the point of travel if everywhere you go is the same thing? And Brother and I have talked about this in the past too. The special thing about going other places is trying the local thing. And back to what you said about arts and culture.
Right.
Local color, local personality, local dialect, local everything, history, et cetera. How does that factor into the food? That is what makes it exciting. If we keep supporting the In-N-Outs, the Whataburgers, the McDonald's and Burger Kings of the world, every chain you can mention, we are depriving our locals of their chance to shine, of their chance to be supported financially. I notice how many cars there are constantly around the In-N-Out parking lots here around town. And on one hand, you're like, okay, that's cool. Some people don't have one of these in their state. And when they come here, we're closer than California. Yeah. I get it. Like, you want to have that meal. If you have that meal, but you spent the other time in town eating locally, I would love that. I worry that they only go to some of those sometimes. But back to it, I mean, we traveled in Portugal and Spain within the last few years. I am a foodie, so I plan my trip around food too. I'm the perfect user of the Michelin Guide. I'm the sample, demographic, but we looked at each town. We looked at what restaurants were there. We planned specifically to drive out of our way to certain places just to get to one of those restaurants. And then when we arrived at some of those and chose them from the list of Michelins, one of the ones we chose was because that chef was working with the local ingredients in his area, highlighting those foods, serving seasonally. Even out of season, we found things that were preserved, dried, things like that. And he told that story of, this is why I'm giving you this. I could have ordered this off of a plane that would have arrived this morning from Japan, but I'm giving you this because we, harvested this last fall. We preserved it just for you right now, et cetera. There was so much more storytelling there. That's back to the culture and art, storytelling, personality and character. So locals like Brother can tell a story about the Four Corners and why Four serves this menu and what it's inspired by. Each season and ingredient has its own story back to the farm, but I just don't think these chains have a story to tell other than who founded it and what year. And at the end of the day, it's a corporate extraction model of money out of our community.
Right. Well, the one thing I would say, Brother, you grew up at Hyatt, I grew up at Marriott, and the one thing we do know about the chains for the travelers is they pride themselves on consistency. That if you're getting a Hyatt meal in Oakland, California, it should taste very much like the one you could get in Fort Lauderdale tonight. And so there is, the chains have built a successful model that way, but the independent restaurants have, just to me, so much more of a story. And to your point, the money stays locally with those folks. But
And we're celebrating culture and artistry, and I think when you get into independent concepts, independent restaurants, most of us are extremely artistic. We do have some type of cultural lens, and we're an expert within the region. Just like a congressperson needs to hear from us to understand our perspective representing our industry, it's the same thing when a visitor comes to experience a region. We're the professional that they should seek out to tell the story more clearly.
Yep. Yeah. Well said. So let's stay on Michelin a little bit and talk to listeners about what it takes to earn that recognition from Michelin.
No one knows.
I could tell you. I looked before, I knew we were going to have this conversation, so I looked this morning and scrolled some Michelin sites
on the website. Okay,
in their words, I can tell you the 5 criteria inspectors look for. It's really quick if you want to hear it.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Here it is for Michelin themselves. The 5 criteria. They want to look for the mastery of culinary technique, the harmony of flavors, the personality and emotion that conveys that the chef conveys in the dishes, and consistency, back to the word you just said, both throughout the entire menu and across different visits. So those are some pretty foundational things. When chefs go to culinary school or get trained on the job, they're learning those foundational cooking techniques. It's the same thing on the, what we look for. I've been a reviewer for a long time. Everything from the moment you walk in the door, the service starts with the greeting, and then the table greeting, and then how does everything flow throughout the night, then what's on the plate, and if the story is told behind that, or if the story is conveyed in the ingredients alone, that's amazing, and someone gets to experience without even having to be told a word. That's brilliant, beautiful. The wine pairings, the beer or cocktail pairings, the after dinner service with coffee. I mean, there are so many points to a special meal. And it doesn't have to be that too. It could also just be a beer and a slice of pizza, or a kombucha and a salad, whatever the thing is that comprises it. But make it special, make it consistent. This town, historically, we get back to where we came from, has had trouble with consistency. We all gripe about, man, we went here this time, it was great. We told our friends, we sent them, and they went, and they had a terrible time.
Yeah.
And then you look like a clown for making the recommendation, and you don't know what happened. Was it just subjective, or at the end of the day, did that restaurant not live up to its own standard from night to night?
Had a bad
and
night.
The same dish was just not consistent. So we can definitely learn that from the chains.
Brother, what would your, I guess, not your response, but I'm curious what your restaurant for, since this announcement has been made. I know you've been waiting for it, but does it change anything of what you do at your restaurant now that a Michelin inspector could be there tonight for dinner?
No, we have our standards, and we've defined our standards, and we know what we're trying to create as far as the experience, and clearly communicating that is necessary. When you don't have standards, mediocrity is acceptable. And I listened to a podcast from Matthew a few years ago with a couple of chefs. And we and you talked about, mediocrity is acceptable here in Colorado Springs when it comes to the restaurant scene. Like it's okay. A lot of chefs haven't traveled outside the region. They haven't experienced. They just don't know.
Sure.
And that's what we've accepted. Well, this defines what the top looks like. Okay. And I think there's an important part of Michelin discussion to understand that a 3-star, a 2-star, a 1-star, and a recommended bib are completely different restaurants. I mean, I've had the pleasure of eating at all of those types of concepts, and they're all different. There's no same restaurant. So I think we've just defined a standard to reach, and now you can hold yourself accountable to it or not.
Yeah. You used a term earlier that Michelin is a brand. And it reminds me of when I got here 16 years ago, Colorado Springs really didn't have a brand. We were being branded from the outside in, and we evolved into being Olympic City USA, and this is our 10th year as Olympic City USA. And I think what I hadn't really thought about it until you said it, but that Michelin now is a brand for the restaurant industry that is going to the will of their brand is going to come on us for those that are willing to not accept mediocrity, but to step up and make your restaurant better, make the restaurants on the block better, make the restaurants in the city better. I hope. Do you see how will that work?
I think so. I mean, I keep hoping that this will just create the awareness necessary to kick those kitchens into gear who aren't paying attention, who aren't setting standards. One of my first jobs in the industry was the expediter, which is the role between the floor and the kitchen, the person who kind of receives the plates, puts it together, and then sends it out the door with the runner. You're the last line of defense. You're wiping rims, making sure there's no drops on them. You're making sure everything's on the plate. Did they forget some side item? You're trying to time it all to arrive to be at the tray ready to go so it's all hot and fresh and everything. It's a tough job, but you're the last line of defense. That every one of those line cooks should be their own last line of defense too. Like, why would I serve this plate if it's not right? And in this city, we've seen time and time again, people send things out that's appalling. You know, how did this make it past everyone in the kitchen and the server to the table before anyone noticed that the whole thing's missing something, right?
Yeah.
So I hope Michelin being here gets everyone's attention, and then even at the mid-tier or starter tier of an eatery, every person on staff just takes the personal respect and pride to do better, to rise up, to like be excellent in whatever it is. And you can have an excellent burger and fries and Coke. That too can be excellent. It does not have to all be hoity-toity fine dining that we're talking about today. We know this city is a burger city. To some degree, it always will be.
Yeah.
I know this from my own data in recent weeks. I think I shared this with you before. Once the Michelin story came out, we got a little bit of traffic. I saw some metrics, whatever. The week prior, I had talked about the Navajo Hogan returning, which is a historic, iconic roadside bar with a beautiful neon sign, and this town loves that place. I saw traffic I've never seen before on my page, multiples of attention. And it's like, hey, on one hand, we have one Roadhouse coming back, and on the other hand, we have Michelin coming. Yeah. These two things could shape our whole state. Yeah. What are people excited about? The Roadhouse. That is Colorado Springs. But no offense to that. I think that's awesome. Yeah. We should celebrate those awesome, iconic places here. There's room for both. So let's celebrate that, and let's also talk about the potentiality of what happens when Michelin comes and we earn a handful of somethings, some recommended, maybe a bib, maybe a star, and then all of a sudden we're on the map, and those restaurants are drawing people locally, statewide, international. That's going to be exciting. And maybe that will inspire that mid-tier place to come up and say, wow, we're just down the street from whether it's Four or Ephemera or the Broadmoor or Cowboy Star, whoever gets the biggest nod. But we might see an outlier, which I predicted, which is something that's like none of us are expecting. We didn't put it on our short list, but maybe they just fall in love with Chiba Bar like I have and be like, that's a great Dunbury Bowl. What a cool spot, the industry place. Love it. They're on the recommended list. Yeah. Well, all of a sudden, Chiba's immediate neighbors, when Chiba gets overflowed with a line out the door, they're going to go across the street to Cocktails After Dusk and wait for their turn. And then they're going to discover this other cool bar. Yeah. And then they're going to discover Icons. So it can have a trickle-down effect that can make our whole scene pop in an exciting way.
Well, and the other thing I remember about your Hogan story was that it goes back to us talking about experiences. And you talked about the fact that, I proposed marriage in that room or whatever. And people, when restaurants survive the test of time, there are people who will go back and relive a moment, and whether it was, a proposal or an anniversary, or birthdays or whatever, restaurants still have that special experience, novelty about them.
Oh, yeah.
And how many years has Four been open now?
So Four's been open for 9 years now, which is absolutely surreal. I started my first concept in the back of the Triple Nickel back in 2013. So I've watched it, and I think I wear two hats. I wear the chef hat, and then I wear the owner hat. And that's two completely different perspectives. As an owner, the biggest challenge that I think we have to kind of hurdle past is there's a difference between locals and tourists. And it's two completely different perspectives. It's two different lenses. And we have to bridge our connection with them, because I think when it comes to locals, we only categorize Colorado Springs from that piece of it's a local's perspective of it's a burger market or
Right.
we love fast food. But we have so many tourists who come here from New York, Chicago, LA, Paris, Japan.
Yeah.
Like they're all over the place. Why should the Broadmoor be the only property within the city allowed to chase the accolade on an international level?
Yeah, that's well said. And I will remind you that last August, we had a dinner at 4 with board members from the U.S. Travel Association. That it was domestic, but I had people from Washington and New York City and San Diego and Los Angeles, all in your restaurant. And everybody was ordering off the menu, and it was one of those evenings that the pride, because I talked to you that day, and you said, Doug, I can't be there tonight. But I said, I know you've got faith in your staff, and we had critics there that night from some of the top cities in the country, and they loved the experience. They loved the food, they loved the atmosphere, and so that's to me how we build ambassadors, food and beverage ambassadors for our city when we get a chance to have them come in. And I do believe that Michelin will help raise that bar. What would you say to chefs and owners who are listening who think that Michelin is going to be a detriment to our city?
You can take it
Yeah,
first.
there's history,
Okay.
right? There's history of pressure. There's history of mental health. There's history of aggressive behavior. There's a history when it comes to the pressure of Michelin standards
Yep.
that exist, and I think that's where the narrative of many restaurateurs who understand what Michelin means and what it has as far as weight, they go back to. This is an individual's choice, right? For me personally, the accolade it means a lot as a chef. As an owner, it's another brand to attach to. The same way I attach to Food Network, or I attach to Bravo's Top Chef, or I attach to Bobby Flay. All those do are elevate my brand, and it gives me more credibility to speak on a higher platform. I think that's where we have to kind of view that lens, is you don't have to put this unnecessary pressure on your staff and break your staff trying to chase an accolade. Like that's not what this is about. I think this is an excitement for the future of our city and restaurateur and culinary, as we continue to build the education at the base level of our culinary and our hospitality and our food and beverage. It's going to give them the aspirations to strive towards this. Like that, to me, that's one of the biggest missing pieces in this scenario, is we need to build more of almost what Victor was doing years ago, Victor Matthews with Paragon, right? We were investing heavily into furthering the progressive education of culinarians and hospitality professionals instead of the traditional that exist. And Pikes Peak State College has a phenomenal program, but it's not truly a clear reflection of what the industry is today. It's not defining what we're currently doing in the market. And I think we need more focus on education. And you see that in cities like San Antonio. San Antonio built a Culinary Institute of America campus, and the intention was to study Latin studies because they were so close to Latin America. What they didn't anticipate was that the attendees, the students, staying local and opening businesses. So as all these locals graduated from this very high-end New York-based culinary program, they all opened business. And then you saw Michelin, you saw James Beard, you saw Food and Wine Best New Chef. You saw all of this success thrive in its culinary industry. When I lived there in 2005, it was a very touristy, Riverwalk, puffy taco kind of town.
Yeah.
And now you have some of the best restaurants in the world coming out of that city.
Yeah. What would you say?
Back to the earliest part of what Brother was talking about, I think places can decide to chase Michelin or just do what they do. And I would advise the former, which could still lead to the latter, which is to say, as we talk about being inspired to, be better and do better, let's just remember baseline standards. You should keep a clean kitchen because you will get inspected by the health department and you should have all the temperatures right.
Yeah.
And if you don't, now Restaurant Roundup, KRDO segment, will come report on that after the fact and further embarrass you accidentally, whatever. They're just doing the reporting based off the metrics. But that pressure is now on our local scene because one news station decided to create more reporting around it, which I applaud. I interviewed them and we had a nice sit down about why they did that. But the standard should be cleanliness, make sure people are, being served food in a healthy environment. But that standard alone should set the tone for, baseline kitchen operations. But authenticity will come through like just being whoever you are, whether you're a burger, a taco, or fine dining. Yeah. Do what you do with authenticity and sincerity. And I would assume that that's what will resonate with the inspector. When they sit down and taste something, again, that like speaks to the story, just an amazing thing. If you chase it too hard, inauthentically, I think we're going to just see something the equivalent of gimmicks or wannabe stagecraft. Like, it's not going to happen. Like, your product is either going to speak for itself and be amazing and awesome and get attention or not. You should care about that because everyone with a smartphone can put you on a Yelp review or a Google review tomorrow. Every restaurant should be afraid of the baseline consumer before Michelin. Yeah. I mean, this thing changed everything. And I watched it happen while I was in journalism. Before these came along, we were doing all the things in the newsroom, the old school way, and pen and paper and all that. The moment we had this phone and could suddenly tweet in the moment or put something up and write that review real time, take that picture and attach it. I mean, that just changed everything. Everyone's a critic, is what I tell the restaurants.
Yeah, that's true.
So be on your best all the time. And Michelin's arrival is just on top of that. Like, hit it, do the standards, etc.
One thing I want to assure you, brother, about Pikes Peak State College, Dr. Kerry Snow is on our board at Visit COS, and over the last year, he's come in to oversee both the hospitality and the culinary program. The day that we as a board started talking about Michelin coming to Colorado Springs, Dr. Snow was one of the most excited people because he recognized what this could mean from a career progression standpoint, not only for people that are already here, but for people that could move here and say, this could be a Michelin city and I want to improve my education. And so if you haven't met Dr. Snow, I want to make sure you do, because he wants to improve that program. It's already a good supplier. There's a lot of people working in kitchens all over town that are graduates from there, but he knows that they need to step it up a little bit.
Well, that distinguishment Brother made too between Paragon, which was Victor Matthews' alternative school, versus the mainstream. Victor's school's crazy. Like, his final exam, which I've reviewed most years, I've been there to like help judge the students. It's like a 24-hour intensive. Those kids have to cook all 3 meals. Yeah, wow. And they have a little helper, but there's like challenge ingredients and all this stuff. It's like a, one of these reality shows meets whatever. But his point is, when you get out there and get into these jobs, things will happen. You're going to work a double. You're going to have no sleep. You're going to, be exhausted. You're going to get thrown all these curveballs all the time. And I want your skin thick enough to be able to tolerate that. I didn't go to culinary school. I worked in the industry and learned inside the industry, so I missed that opportunity. But and I'm sure they're all a little different. I think what's important is we make sure that as people come into the industry, however they get there in whichever segment, they're ready with some thick skin, because unfortunately the industry is a toxic workplace. It always has been. It's always been trying to clean itself up. Had the Me Too era that helped get some of the bad actors out. But we know there are still harsh environments where people aren't always nice. Things happen, and it's a place where you might, back to the mental health kimono, you might get broken down in ways that are really challenging, and you thought you were just learning knife skills and how to, do this or that. Then suddenly you're having to deal with all the social elements and the pressure, and it can crack people. It can, we have way too much dependency on substances in the industry, too much alcohol abuse, et cetera. We're trying to clean that up too. I mean, Brother's been a leader in that. The people who are really honest about the industry talk about its dark side. And then we want to strive to make it better. And that includes back to food sourcing, back to all those elements that we could do better. We could support our local farms. We could take care of our employees better. I've seen some of the most successful restaurants, they focus on employee well-being. Sure. Brother does that. Eric at Red Gravy does that. I've seen, active programs to take care of people, because when you do that, the rest falls into place.
But we're only the poster child for toxic work culture. And as I get into so many other sectors, and I'm speaking at conventions, and I'm consulting on corporate America, and I'm working with different sales offices in other industries, it exists in every workplace. The behavior, the sexual harassment, the dependency on substances or alcohol, like all of these things exist in every industry. And we just happen to be the one who becomes the poster child because of our history with media and as we've become glorified as entertainment. And as I've been in that world of television, it is amplified. Why do you think they fill the set room of liquor when we come off of a competition and they turn the cameras on? They want us drinking. Yeah. They want us talking. Yeah. But that's no different than what MTV did with reality television, right? Or you see it on every major network with The Bachelor or whatever show you're watching. It's intentional. It's entertainment, and it's fun to watch, and it makes good TV. It makes good headlines.
Brother, take a minute and just tell people a little bit about your book, because you've chronicled the story so well.
Yeah, I wanted to write about something that had nothing to do with culinary, but it had everything to do with culinary, my why. And as I understood my own timeline and how I ended up where I was at that time in my career, I just wanted to reflect it and put a narrative on it. And it gave me such a clear message of understanding your past, and now knowing that your past doesn't define who you are today. You can write the story for whatever you want, but your story's meant for someone else to be shared with. Yeah. They need to hear your stories because people feel more and more isolated. And when we look at today's social media, we look at today's technology, we look at the accessibility with cell phones, it's overwhelming. And there's so many false narratives out there, especially with the introduction of AI and the advancement of technology. You can't trust anything. So you're constantly measuring yourself against what you see online, but this is someone's greatest hits. Yeah. Like, that's not really their life. And now you're being targeted. I mean, I'm actually on a hiatus. I haven't been on social media in 30 days. Okay. I'm completely out of it. I'm done posting because I don't need the outside noise. It's not real. It's not, it's too much.
Yeah. That's well said. And the name of the book is?
No Luck's Given. Life is hard, but there is hope.
Thank you. Okay, before we wrap, let's give a shout out to this episode's sponsor, Visit Colorado Springs Wellness Pass. New year, new you. The Wellness Pass features deals and discounts to various spas, massage studios, and relaxation experiences around the Pikes Peak region, so you can prioritize your wellness this year. You can find it at visitcos.com/wellness. All right, so we're going to change it up a little bit. We end all these episodes with 3 questions, and usually they're generic questions, but I told the staff today we're gonna customize this to the two of you. So, Matthew, I'm going to start with you. In 3 words, how would you describe the Colorado Springs food scene?
Oh, wow, that's tough.
Coming to you next.
I'm going to recycle one that I used with KRCC recently, which was nascent, which is a polite way to say we've got something to learn and develop and grow. Wow. Springs food scene. Yep. I've been tough in the past and said middling too, and that's something your own data showed from outside information was how the perception is we are middling and we need to be better. So that's, I think, still accurate. Let me think of something more positive for number 3. I think, something that conveys hope and hopefulness in this bright future. Yeah. What is a word? Help me out here.
Rising?
Yeah, sure, rising. Okay. I mean, let's just picture the rising tide. Yeah, aspire.
Sure.
There is an energy. There is an excitement that even precedes Michelin's announcement. because there are enough people in this community who care, and that's what part of this is about.
So how do you describe it, brother?
Be an individual.
Being an
I mean,
individual.
here's the thing. I'm not concerned with what other restaurants are doing because I can't control that.
Right.
That has nothing to do with what I do every day.
Sure.
My entire experience in this city has been challenging narratives. I mean, I go back to the chef gala days. I go back to the signature chefs, the March of Dimes events, to where we were very collaborative. We were very involved with each other. We had a lot of outlets to perform. I mean, I have the Colorado Restaurant Association tower of awards, and I look at it all the time of 20 years of chefs on that placards, and all the genius that was attached to that. We need to get back to that, but we also need individuals.
Yeah.
We need you to just have a voice, have opinion, and stick to it. Like, stop chasing what other people are doing and do you.
Do you? Okay. So stay there. And what would you say is your favorite hidden gem restaurant in Colorado Springs?
Oh, man.
Only one, Doug?
Yeah.
This is a rude question.
I know.
Only one. All right.
My favorite hidden gem restaurant.
I'm ready if you want more time to think.
Yeah, you go first.
All right. I'm just going to ignore his rule. I'm going with two. I'm going to go with Adams Mountain Cafe. I think everyone, whether you live here or especially if you're a tourist, you've got to eat there.
Okay.
Everyone who comes to Adams from out of state loves it.
Yep.
Loves it.
Okay.
It's a staple. Same with Margarita at Pine Creek. I think totally underrated and underseen, except for the core group who gets it.
Okay.
That is a special place in town, a unique place that everyone should get to know. And both of them have, I think, 30 plus years or 30-ish years of
Yeah.
history. Don't have exact numbers. Exactly. These are legacy spots that deserve attention.
Okay.
For me, it's probably Roots Cafe.
Roots Cafe.
And just because there's so much soul in that place. I mean, that is a family and a team of very passionate people that just want to cook for the right reasons. And they represent a culture, they represent a history and an authenticity that you just don't see. I've always said this over the years. Colorado Springs is not known for its fine dining scene. We have such a better international scene. I mean, our restaurants of culture are actually, for me, my favorites. The Vietnamese, the Jamaican, the Hawaiian, those restaurants to me are the best restaurants in the city.
Got it. All right. So I'm going to stay with you for this last question. What restaurant in Colorado Springs is still on your bucket list to go to?
You know, this has been tough for me because since I've stopped drinking, I don't go out as much,
Right.
and I don't socialize. I mean, I'm such a homebody. I'd say if there's a place that I need to go check out, it's probably I probably need to go to Chiba.
You should
Yeah,
go.
I just
haven't been there.
I'm not a industry drinker, so I don't. It's not on my
Yeah.
everyday routine.
You don't
Understood.
have to be anymore. What's cool about it too is so many of these places are doing a great job with their NA drinks and their mocktails, and they don't care if you get a soda water and lime. I mean, the experience should still be around the food. I get it; it's a bar, like
Sure.
it's drink forward.
Yeah.
But now we're seeing so much attention and care on the NA spirits. I drink the NA drinks more often than the regular nowadays. I've cut my own drinking quite a bit back, and they're fabulous. There's some really creative things happening on that
Now,
scene.
this is a tough question for you because your job is to
Yeah,
go review, but maybe you can give us a little insight as to what's next. What have you not been to that you know you want to go review?
I mean, I think you hit it. I've been very privileged that my job. I mean, it's part of how side dish. I do pay for my meals, but I make sure to get to everything that I can. So there is no bucket list for me because I've been to them so far.
Yeah.
You know, I've hit each Broadmoor place. I've hit the Ombly. I've hit the Cowboy Star. The high end stuff. There's some places that I need to probably go back to because it's been a long time.
Okay.
I know there's constantly new places opening. I think if you aren't, this is not a self-plug to say, oh, subscribe to my newsletter. It is free, my newsletter. But
This is
if
how
you
we're
do,
going to wrap it. So tell people how they can get your newsletter.
if you go to Side Dish or Side Dish Schniper, just look it up. Side Dish Colorado Springs, you'll find it. But weekly, this is what I'm doing, is I'm trying to let people know about the new places and report on things happening at the old places, events and all those things. But just plug into our scene, and if not me, you can get some from the other influencers and local media places too, of course. But for a city our size, which I always say something like 500,000 or metro or whatever, it's even through the pandemic, it was so fascinating to see how many places open on a weekly or monthly basis. We're constantly growing, and so it is hard to keep up with all of it. I can't think of even a single name. Okay. I mean, there's some stuff I've got coming up in my own reporting. Oh, I know there's a new coffee shop coming downtown, or there's this place that's going to open up north, and it's going to be some Thai food or whatever. Yeah. But think citywide, though. Think everything from Falcon to Woodland Park to Pueblo, if you want to go on a short day drive. Region, West Side downtown, of course, has the largest concentration. But I go corner to corner, and I find really cool stuff in each place. Yeah. And that's what excites me, too, is just to get out and see the neighborhood by neighborhood level. Because at our best, too, this is something even Mayor Yimmy told me. We did an episode with the mayor, and we were joking about, we don't need any more taco shops. He's like, I actually disagree. We could have a taco shop on every corner, basically, kind of like the Starbucks. But you know what? I started thinking about it, why not? Back in Europe, if you think about the brewery level, every neighborhood, places can walk to their pub kind of thing. And we've done great with that with our craft beer scene. There's a brewery in every neighborhood. So why don't we have a great taco, a great burger, a great this, a great that? So I love seeing how much everything pops up and saturates the little corners of the region.
Yeah, shout out to Por Favor and their birria tacos, because, man, they're so good.
Oh, you are getting out. Por Favor is a good one, yeah. See,
so
that one's a good one.
I'm going to ask you to put a bow on this for us. Tell us how people find out about Four and about all you're doing.
Yeah, you can follow me, chefbrotherluck.com or 4bybrotherluck.com. Both of them have newsletters. My team is very, very good about ensuring that newsletters get sent out. That's the first place where we post everything from cooking classes to celebrity chef dinners to our experiences. That's where we're putting out the content. Before it goes to any social media from our team, it's going there first. And I will just kind of conclude with this. 3 days ago, it was a Sunday night, I hosted a Michelin-starred chef here in Colorado Springs. I brought him out from Napa Valley, and him and I cooked on Top Chef together. He has a 1-star out there. We sold 95 seats at a very high price point for this experience. And when I stood in that dining room, I couldn't have been more proud of our city. Because it shows me, as much as I have insecurities or I'm hearing the outside noise of Michelin's not what we want, that room just changed my entire outlook on it. There's a demand for quality. And as we created that experience on Sunday night and brought a chef here to share his expertise and did all these beautiful wines from Napa, I just was reminded that what we're doing matters. As an individual, what we're doing matters. So what you're doing within your own spot, within your own store, it matters. Continue to push, chase the standard, but define the standard. I think that's all I could ask of anyone that's out there.
That's great. Well said. Let me wrap it by saying thank you to both of you for all you have done and will continue to do. And I would say to listeners, if you are a resident, I hope that you will continue to support our local restaurant scene. And we know that one of the main reasons people come to visit is to visit friends and family. And so when you are a resident, take the time to really, as part of the itinerary, we know you can go to Garden of the Gods, we can go to the top of Pikes Peak and the zoo and the Olympic and Paralympic Museum, but plan your restaurant visits intentionally and really give people a chance to see how our culinary scene is rising. And for those who are really thinking about coming, one, go to the visitcos.com website, take a look at the dining options that you have there, but subscribe to Side Dish and really just be intentional on the experiences that you can have when you come to visit us in Colorado Springs. Thank you both very, very much for being here.
Thanks, Doug.
Absolutely.